Hi friends and companions along this path of spiritual practice. I'm thinking about many of you who are taking your next right action, gathering with friends for conversation about intercultural work, or gathering in circles for dialogue about legislation and policing. In 1957, there was a seminal conversation, a public conversation, between two very prominent contributors to dialogue. Martin Buber was a philosopher who gave to the world that powerful lens of I-thou relationship. And Carl Rogers, the psychologist who gave to the world person-centered approach to human relationships. Martin Buber and Carl Rogers met for a dialogue in front of the world about dialogue. At one point in that conversation, the moderator turns to Martin Buber and asks this question: how do you know when a dialogue has gone well? Buber answers with this: if in the course of our conversation, Carl or I say something we have not said before, then the dialogue has been a success. In this relationship of self and other, Buber was suggesting that surprise was a measure of how well self and other meet. In Buddhist meditation practice, the duality of self and other is probably most commonly experienced in ordinary conversation, in dialogue with our friends and neighbors, in our circles. Self and other as a duality therefore asks the question about right speech, virtuous speech, skillful speech, wise speech. Dialogue is that complex coming together of centripetal forces that turn toward the center, where there might be agreement or at least order. But dialogue that is also about centrifugal forces that turn outward toward diversity and difference and conflict. And in dialogue, we experience that creative tension between holding our ground as a listener and talker, while we try our best to stay open to the other, who is also a listener and talker. And we try to display our openness through acceptance and curiosity and surely humility, through creativity, through being present, not just seemingly present, but actually present to and for and with the other. But arguably, we are far more accustomed to holding our ground than we are to being open to the other, especially when the other comes to the dialogue with views and beliefs and values that challenge our own. How do we stay open? What does openness look like? In meditation practice, we come to understand that our mind stops at understanding. Our mind stops at understanding. And intrinsically, there's nothing wrong with that. We've wondered and we've questioned, and to pause at a hard-won understanding, to appreciate understanding, seems only fitting. But we may also realize that what is a temporary pause at understanding brings with it a sense of being attached to our understanding. We tend to fixate on the understanding that orients us and helps us with the other. It's about attachment that Buddhist practice and meditation brings its own set of questions. How can we, non-attached to this mind that tends to fixate at understanding? One of the ways that Buddhist meditation practice jumpstarts wondering is to teach questioning as a spiritual practice. Many of you know Zen koans as a way of getting at this questioning as a spiritual practice. But questioning in Buddhism insists on an orientation of openness. It calls us out into the open beyond the scope of our understanding, making the case that there is so much more to the world and to the other outside of the walls of what we already know and understand. Questioning insists that no dominant perspectives or opinions will suppress that openness, will prematurely close that openness to the other. Questioning as a meditative practice begins to quiet our glib commentary and opinions and quick judgments, and it asks us to stay at wondering. No matter what we think we may understand, to stay at opening. I want to leave us with 3 questions as we lean into questioning as a spiritual practice. When you meet someone whose views and beliefs and values challenge your own, what makes it possible for you to stay open and really listen to the other? Second, what actions or what contexts help you to suspend your assumptions that you really understand what the other is saying? And finally, what do you bring to that dialogue, that meeting with the other, that evokes from that other person such richness and complexity that they wish to share with you? I'm curious to know how you respond to these questions as you continue in this practice of meditation.